Hi, my name's Susie and welcome back to my series on how to read the playing cards for fortune telling and divination. Sorry this video has been a long time coming, but I mean, what can I say? It's been a bit of a crazy year, I think we can all agree. However, I haven't been just resting on my laurels. I've actually been working on writing a series of books on British folk magic. And I'm really excited to say that the first book in the series is going to be released very shortly in the next few days, probably around the same time as this video will be released. So I'm going to put a link to buy it if you're interested in the description box. The first book in the series is all about how to make products using herbs for magic. So things like incenses, oils, herbal baths, herbal teas, powders, that sort of thing. And it's got loads of folklore, loads of myths and legends surrounding different herbs. It's got tips on growing and harvesting herbs. It's got lots of my own personal recipes for different things like love drawing baths, money drawing powders, all that sort of stuff. So if you're at all interested in anything like that, I highly suggest that you check it out. Like I said, I'll put a link to it in the description. So that's just something very exciting. Anyway, on to the video. So in the previous two videos, I've talked about the colours of the suits and also the symbols of the suits. And in today's video, I'm going to talk all about the numbers on the cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to firstly give an overview of what each group of numbers means, because they have very similar meanings, which will help you to remember them. And then I'm going to briefly go through the individual meanings of the cards within those numbers, very briefly, because otherwise this will be like a million years long. And then finally, I'm going to just show you a few sample spreads of 3 cards, putting together everything that we've learned so far in the previous videos. I'm just going to do a few of those because if I went really in depth with them, again, this would take forever. So I just want to address a couple of comments that I had come up on the previous videos regarding the direction that you should read the cards in the free card spreads, or any spread basically. I just want to make it clear. So for example, these are all in order now, but when I was reading them like this, so I read cards from left to right the same way that I would read a book. In the video, when I was in this setup here with the camera facing this way, I was deliberately reading them backwards so that you could see how it should look as you're reading them. Just because I didn't want to confuse people by reading them this way, and then in your mind you have to turn it around the other way, if that makes sense. So I read them back to front, so imagine the camera or you, the viewer, was me reading, so I was going that way. But really I read from left to right. If you come from a culture where you read from right to left, say Arabic or Jewish culture, then by all means read the cards from right to left. At the end of the day, it's whatever you're comfortable with. I like to read past, present, future, because in my mind that's the way things flow, because they flow from left to right. But like I said, if your culture reads from right to left, by all means read from right to left. Whatever works for you, if it's working for you, just stick with it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the traditional meanings of the cards and the ones that I use. But I just want to say that you need to make sure that your meanings work for you. So sometimes you might have a personal meaning for a card which is specific to you. And in that case, then please use that. An example might be a lot of businesses have names after playing cards. So if perhaps you run a business or there's a business involved in your life in some way that is named after a playing card, like I think there's a taxi firm called like Ace of Clubs Taxis. So let's say like your cousin runs that. So if Ace of Clubs came up in a reading, it might relate to your cousin's taxi firm, for example. So that sort of thing. Or a lot of people, they sometimes have like tattoos of playing cards. So say you're dating someone and maybe they have a tattoo of like the Ace of Spades. So an Ace of Spades coming up in a reading, that could symbolize that person in your life. So it's good to be aware of the traditional meanings of all the cards, but if, like I said, if there is a card that has a personal meaning to you, then by all means use that as the meaning along with the traditional meaning as well. So I'm going to go around the cards one by one, and I'm going to start with the aces. So ace in this system is the first card. It's not the 13th card as is in some card games. Ace is the first. So in that case, all of the aces, they represent beginnings. I should just note that in every group, the spade is the opposite of what the rest of that group represents. So where the aces are beginnings, the spade is the ending, if that makes sense. So aces, they represent new beginnings. They're the primary influence of this suit in the whole deck. So for example, so we have the Ace of Diamonds. So because diamonds, as you remember, they relate to finances mainly. So the Ace of Diamonds is something new connected to money or finances. It's also traditionally a letter or a diamond ring. It could be fire, hope, and a seed, like a new idea or a seed of something that's planted. So that is the Ace of Diamonds. Okay. The Ace of Hearts, this is a great card. Traditionally, this means the home and the family. It can also be a new home. It can be moving house. It can be a new friend or a new lover. Okay. The Ace of Clubs relates to a new goal, a new opportunity, a new job, a new task or responsibility. And like I said, the Ace of Spades, instead of a beginning, this relates to an ending. But what is important to remember is that an ending always leads to a new beginning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Ace of Spades because I know it's got this sinister reputation as being like the card of death and the dead man's hand and all that. But for the Ace of Spades in a reading to come up, for it to actually mean physical death, it needs to be surrounded with at least 3 other ace cards, including not including this card, for it to mean actual physical death. So don't panic if the Ace of Spades turns up in a reading. The other meanings for the Ace of Spades are big changes and a big decision. So when the Ace of Spades comes up, you know there's going to be a big change. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad change. That all depends on the cards that are surrounding it. It could be a change for the better, but either way, it's going to be an ending of something, which of course means a new beginning of something else, and it's going to lead to big changes in your life. So this is a big card to get. Okay. So the twos. So twos, as you can imagine, they naturally suggest partnerships and exchanges, couples. So the twos all relate to personal one-on-one relationships. So for example, the Two of Diamonds relates to communication, invitations, telephone calls, messages, exchanging money because of the finances, exchanging gifts, and also contracts. Two of Hearts, I imagine this would be pretty obvious, but it relates to couples, romantic relationships, sex. It also relates to dancing, because obviously there's 2 people and they're doing something which is pleasurable, and it relates to marriage. So that's pretty easy to remember. So the Two of Clubs relates to a practical partnership. So it could be a business partnership or someone helping you out. It's known as the helping hands. It's a team, it's trust, it's honesty with each other. And it also relates to things repeating in your life. So for example, something that you've done before. So a person returning into your life, a second marriage, another child, a second honeymoon, that sort of thing. So it's things repeating into your life. And then of course the Two of Spades. So where the Two of Hearts is a couple and harmony, the Two of Spades is the complete opposite. It's argument, it's separation, it's battles, it's fights with an enemy, inability to get along with another person, quarrels, all of that bad stuff. So that's the Two of Spades. It's interesting to note that a lot of the time the spade is the opposite meaning of the heart card for that number in the suit. So whereas the 2 of hearts is harmony in a couple, the 2 of spades is separation and argument and hate within a couple. Okay, now the 3s. So the 3 cards relate to things growing, because you have the 2 and then the growth, another 1, which is the 3, like a triangle. Okay, so if you think it's like you know, 2 things coming together and producing one more thing, so that's 3. I hope that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but anyway. So the 3 of diamonds relates to your money growing. It's important to remember that the 3s are just a small growth because it's a small number. So it's not a lot of growth, but it's your money growing bit by bit. Your profits are up, things are on the increase. But on a negative sense, because diamonds relate to the mind, it can also be a scattered mind. So like your thoughts are all over the place. You've got lots of little thoughts going on and you're finding it hard to focus. So money growing or a scattered mind for that one. Okay, 3 of hearts. So as you can imagine, this is the extra 1 that's produced from the union of the 2 hearts. So this can mean children, pregnancy, fertility. It also relates to a growing emotional bond between 2 people, so like the growth of love in a relationship. It relates to decorating and beautifying, all things that are beautiful. But on the negative aspect, it can relate to a love triangle because of the 3 hearts, or a love rival, someone trying to steal your lover, and 3 is a crowd. The 3 of clubs. This relates to practical developments, things moving forward in your life bit by bit. It's small steps towards a goal, towards an achievement, towards your plans. It also relates to things growing practically. So it relates to gardening, it relates to crops, plants, that sort of thing, herbs. Okay. Now the 3 of spades. Again, this is the negative aspect of 3. So this relates to a third party interfering in your life. So it's interference from a third party. It's little problems all mounting up, like little aggravations, little niggles, that sort of thing. And it also relates to loss and things that have been lost, like lost objects, but also loss in your life in general. Okay. Now the 4s. The 4s. So the 4s, they're a little bit trickier to get your head around. Basically, the 4s relate to stability because of the square, the stable square, but they also relate to anything square. Okay, so if I go through them, it will become more clear. So the 4 of diamonds is financial stability. So because of the squareness, it relates to things like paperwork, legal paperwork, certificates, licenses, checks, banknotes. It can also relate to a bank because it's like a square building, and contracts. The other thing that the 4s can relate to due to their square nature is beds. So each 4 represents a different type of bed. So the 4 of diamonds is known as the whore's bed. Don't shoot the messenger, that's the name of what it's called. Sorry, it's just the traditional name. Basically, it doesn't necessarily relate to prostitution, but what it implies is sex without love. So it could be a one-night stand, or a friend with benefits, like an affair without any emotional attachment. So that is the meaning of the 4 of diamonds in relation to the whore's bed. So the 4 of hearts relates to emotional stability. It also relates to justice being done, the square, the legal documents, or maybe like the square of a courtroom, that sort of thing. But anyway, it's justice being done. It also relates to a summer home or holiday cottage. So like a building full of love where you go to enjoy yourself, not your regular house, you know. So in terms of beds, the 4 of hearts is the marriage bed. So this is not necessarily have to be marriage, but it's the bed of love, basically. Now the 4 of clubs, this card actually has a lot of meanings. I'll explain why in a second. On the stability factor, this relates to job stability, career stability, also that your goals are on a firm footing, everything's stable. But on the converse side, it can relate to boredom at work, plodding along in your life. The square shape also suggests your desk at work, your physical desk, and your workplace. It can also relate to just the outdoors in general, of the countryside. But the other main thing with the Four of Clubs is that a lot of the time it represents buildings in general. So the Four of Clubs will be the building, depending on what card is next to it, is what type of building it is. So for example, the Four of Clubs with the Seven of Hearts is a church, because the Seven of Hearts relates to religion and the Four of Clubs is the building. With a Three of Hearts, it is a nursery, because children are the Three of Hearts and this is the building that they're in. With the Five of Spades, it would be a hospital, because the Five of Spades is ill health and this is a building. And for example, with the Five of Diamonds, it would be a restaurant or a shop, because the Five of Diamonds relates to buying things and eating. The Ace of Spades with this would be a funeral parlor or a graveyard, for example. So the four, depending on what card is next to it, tells you what type of building it is. The four is just buildings in general, because they're generally square. So that's the Four of Clubs. So that's a really important card. Now we have the Four of Spades. So where all the other fours represent stability, the Four of Spades is instability, because the spades are always the opposite side to everything else. So their instability, their exhaustion. Where the Four of Hearts represented justice, the Four of Spades is injustice. Remember I said a lot of the time the spades are the opposite of the hearts in that number. So they're injustice. They're lawsuits, because of the legal angle as well. They're lawsuits. They're being called into court. Their exhaustion. They also represent an army, because of the traditional, if you remember the Roman soldiers, they used to form like a square formation. I don't know if the army still do that, but anyway, I know the Romans, they had like their square battalion formation. So the square, so that relates to armies as well. So not a great card. So I completely forgot to mention the other two beds. So in terms of beds, the Four of Clubs relates to a stranger's bed or sleeping alone. So in other words, it would be like staying at a friend's house as a guest. It also relates to traveling for work and sleeping alone in a strange bed, like in a hotel. Okay. So the Four of Spades is the sick bed. It's the sick bed or the death bed or the hospital bed. So the fives. Now the fives all relate to the body, because if you stand with your arms and legs out, you make a star, 5-pointed star. So you've got your head, arms, legs, 5. So fives are all related to your physical body. So the Five of Diamonds, because diamonds is money and it's related to the body, this is buying things. So it's shopping, it's eating out, it's buying jewelry, it's buying clothes, it's buying new furniture, it's spending money for pleasure, basically. So it's just a really nice card. I like that one. The Five of Hearts, because hearts, well, heart obviously, it relates to health, it relates to friendship, it relates to entertainment, it relates to sex, all the pleasures of the body, basically, and the pleasures of the emotions. The Five of Clubs, because the clubs is the practical card. This relates to exercise, sports, hobbies, like practical work, like craftsmanship, working hard as well. But it also can be like nose to the grindstone, like really grinding away, just like work with no rest. Okay, so that's the downside of that card. Remember always that clubs, they can go either way. They can, because they're a black card, they can be good or they can be bad depending on what's around them. They're like iffy. They're in the middle. And then finally we have the Five of Spades. So where the Five of Hearts was health, the Five of Spades is ill health, it's disease, it's illness, it's addictions, it's drugs, it's alcoholism, it's injury, it's sickness. So yeah, it's not great. Taking on too much as well is another meaning of this one. So it's stress, anything that's running you down basically. So the sixes, now the sixes all represent a pathway. It's like a path going down the cards. So the sixes all represent paths. So the six of diamonds, this represents distance. It also represents steps towards your financial goals, so investments, that sort of thing. And it also, because it's related to money and path or journeys, it relates to your car. So this one comes up quite a lot in relation to car. So this with spades would be like various car problems, that sort of thing. And this with like clubs could be a car that you use for work. With hearts, it could be like, you know, your family car that you love. I love my car, so I don't know why I just said that, but anyway. So yes, that can relate to cars as well. So the six of hearts. So this is a pleasant trip with your family or friends, a holiday, a vacation. It's also making emotional progress with somebody. So, you know, a relationship or a friendship, you're making progress with that person. And it also relates to like bonding, steps towards bonding with that person. So it's a really nice card. This is really nice. So the six of clubs. So where the six of hearts related to a trip for pleasure, the six of clubs relates to a trip for work or business. It can also relate to steps towards a goal. It doesn't have to be a business goal. It can just be a practical goal in general. And in that case, it can also be steps towards education. It can be learning, teaching, studying, all that sort of thing as well. So the six of spades. So this represents a bad path. So it's going down the wrong road. It's making the wrong decision. It might be running with the wrong group of people, getting in with a bad crowd. On the other hand, it also relates to clearing things out of your life, getting rid of things that you don't need anymore. It can relate to walking away from something that's not good for you. Or on the opposite hand, it can relate to abandoning, which is obviously the more negative aspect of that. It also relates to travel problems, problems with journeys and difficulties in journeys, that sort of thing. So, the sevens. So the sevens have two main meanings. The sevens, they can either mean trouble. And the reason for that is because you have the path of the six and it's blocked by the pip of the seven in the middle. So there's something blocking the path. So therefore they relate to troubles. However, they also relate to spirituality and religion because of the 7 planets of astrology. The number of God is 777. The sevens relate to spirituality and they relate to trouble. So the 7 of diamonds. So this relates to money problems, financial problems. Your profits are down. You're not making ends meet. You're broke, basically. Can also relate to nerves and anxiety as well because diamonds relate to the mind and to thoughts. So this can be trouble in the mind. On the religious aspect, the 7 of diamonds relates to psychism. So it relates to fortune telling, psychic powers. It relates to astrology because of the 7 planets, the 7 classical planets in the solar system and the 7 stars. So it's anything to do with like psychism and kind of mysticism. Okay, so like the kind of white light spirituality, psychic healers, that sort of thing. Okay, so psychics. So the 7 of hearts. So this relates to emotional or relationship troubles. On the other hand, because the hearts are generally good cards, it can also relate to the ending of troubles. On the religious side, it relates to religion and devotion because it's like the love of God, the love of religion. So it can be organized religion or it can just be your personal religion, but it's religious beliefs as opposed to like spirituality. So the 7 of clubs, so this relates to practical problems, work problems, problems at your job, in your career. problems achieving your goals. So it's general practical problems in your life. It also relates to fate, chance, coincidence, so like chance encounters, random happenings, that sort of thing. And it also relates to magic, so spells, charms, just magic in general is the Seven of Clubs. So the Seven of Spades, this is double trouble because it's a spade and it's trouble, so it's double trouble. It also relates to things that are hidden, mysteries, investigations, diagnosis, consultations, finding things out. On the spiritual side, it relates to curses, hexes, and black magic. So the eights. Now, the eights, they have a few different meanings. So they can be thoughts and things related to the mind. As an extension of thoughts, they can mean communication with other people. And they also mean groups because there's quite a lot of pips on here. So it's like a group of people, okay? So the Eight of Diamonds, this relates to thoughts about money or finances. So it'd be budgeting, accounting, all the fun things. It also relates to using electronics for communication. So social media, computers, emails, mobile phones, that sort of thing. So the Eight of Hearts, this relates to emotional thoughts or thoughts about love. It's also a group of people celebrating, so it's a party, it's a wedding, it's a social club. It's also flirting, drinking, festivals, parties, all the good stuff that we're not allowed to do right now. The Eight of Clubs is thoughts about work or career or your goals. It's job interviews, it's business meetings. It also relates to just your practical plans in general, thinking about your plans, planning for the future, planning for your goals. And it relates to companies and corporations and organizations. And then we have the Eight of Spades, which is negative thoughts, depression, oppression. In terms of other people, of groups, it relates to gossip and rumors spread around groups. It relates to group conflict like war, angry mobs, gangs, gang violence. It can also represent a witch's coven. So the nines are pretty easy. The nines all relate to change. The Nine of Diamonds relates to change for the better because it's a red card, which is generally good. It's change for the better. Also relates to change of plans, and it relates to finery, creature comforts, just being comfortable. It also relates to fame as well, so like a big positive change in your life. Fame and fortune. Now the Nine of Hearts. So traditionally this is known as the wish card, and what this card means is that your wish will come true. It also is change for the better, as the other one was. It can also mean a change of heart, so somebody has a change of heart for the better. So the Nine of Clubs relates to changes at work, changes in career. It also relates to changes in your priorities or your goals. Things are changing in your life. It can relate to going back to work as well after a period of unemployment or maybe maternity leave. Okay. So the Nine of Spades. So this is the opposite of the Nine of Hearts, and its wishes not coming true. It's change for the worse, and it also relates to illness and surgery as well. So the tens. So the tens are endings. They are the constant, the strongest influence of that suit within the pack. And they also relate to journeys by the various elements, so by air, land or sea. So the Ten of Diamonds relates to financial independence, fortune, riches, wealth, lots of money, sealing a business deal, just it's success in general, it's financial success in general. In terms of journeys, this doesn't actually have a meaning because it's not really possible to have a journey by fire, I don't think. Maybe like, you know, in Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they rode up on the volcano, on the explosion at the end. There's anything I can think of, but like, yeah, that's not very likely, is it? Anyway, so the Ten of Hearts. So this relates to happiness, fulfillment, emotional fulfillment in life. It's a happy marriage, it's a perfect family life, it's an amazing relationship. It also relates to large bodies of water because the hearts are related to water. So like oceans, lakes, rivers, and it relates to a journey over water and also boats and ships. So the Ten of Clubs, this relates to accomplishment, achievement, achieving your goals, getting your goals. On the other hand, because the clubs, they always have this like downside to them, it can also be that you're just swamped with work. So much work to do, work piling up around you, like crazy amount of work. And in terms of journeys, it relates to air. So it's journey by an airplane or a helicopter. And then finally, we have the Ten of Spades. So whereas the other cards were success in their areas, this is complete and utter failure. It's probably the worst card in the pack. I would say worse than the Ace of Spades, because the Ace of Spades can be good because it can be a big change for the better. Whereas this is, it's evil, it's tears, it's sorrow, it's violence, it's illness. It's just complete and utter failure. It's just, yeah, horrible. Although it can also be land journeys, so journeys by car or train or bike or horse or scooter, whatever is your thing. Land journeys, walking. So that was the numbers from Ace to 10. Now I'm going to talk about the court cards, the 3 court cards. So they're a little bit trickier, the court cards. So generally they relate to people, and they can be the person you're doing the reading for, yourself, or somebody in that person's life or in your life. So as well as their symbolic meanings, they also have a physical type. So that can help you to identify the person that is maybe being referred to within the reading. So just to run through the types for the different suits, these are not set in stone, by the way. They're just a general idea just to help you if you're a little bit confused, like, I'm not sure who this person could be. I would always look at the personality characteristics first and then consider the physical type, because that's not as important as the personality characteristics implied by the court cards. So in terms of physical appearance, the diamonds relate to people that are really fair. So white skin, it could be blonde or red hair, blue eyes. So I'm Queen of Diamonds because, as you can see, I'm like white as a ghost. So yeah, this isn't my real hair though, but I am naturally blonde, so Queen of Diamonds. So yeah, so the diamonds relate to people that are very fair. The hearts relate to people that are more of like a medium colouring, so not like pasty white, just like white or light-skinned Latino or light-skinned Asian people. It tends to relate to like a medium brown hair and green or brown eyes, so a medium complexion. The clubs relate to people that are slightly darker, so this could be like Latino or Asian colorings, usually brown to black hair and green to brown eyes. And then the spades relate to people with very dark skin, very dark hair and very dark eyes. So it's important to remember that these can be very subtle differences. So if you live in an area where a lot of the people are maybe either like they're all really fair and blonde, or they're all quite dark with dark hair, doesn't therefore mean that everyone would be a diamond or everyone would be a spade. Every ethnicity has lots of different variations within it. So you need to use your intuition and apply people to where you think they would fall in the spectrum, as it were. But like I said, the physical characteristic is always secondary to the personality. And also I tend to go by hair color. I think the hair color is more important in the reading. So if you had someone who was very fair-skinned with maybe green eyes, but they had very, very black hair, I would put them in a spade as opposed to, say, a diamond or a heart or a club because of the hair. So I usually tend to go by like hair color, to be honest. So, of course, if someone's got like blue hair, I don't know where you'd put them. You need to trust your judgment on that one. Anyway, so apart from the physical characteristics, the courts have personality characteristics, which, like I said, they're much more important. So the jacks or knaves of each suit, these relate to youths, which in the system is classed as being under 30. Yeah. And it can also be messages. So youths or messages. The youths can be any gender. So it's not just because the jacks are like male, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a male. It could be any gender. So the Jack of Diamonds. So this is a youth who is intelligent or who has money. So he might, you know, have a nice little wealthy inheritance going on there, trust fund. He could be a student because it's someone who is well read and well learned. A message concerning money. So the Jack of Hearts. So this is an emotional, artistic, dreamy kind of youth. It also can relate to a beloved pet as well. In terms of messages, it's a gift, it's a compliment, it's appreciation, it's a message from a friend or a loved one, and it's also asked out on a date. So the Jack of Clubs, so this relates to a youth who is very practical, they're very active, they like sports, they like exercise, they're very healthy, they're practical, good with their hands, they might be like crafty. And in terms of messages, it's a message about business, about work, or about one of your goals or projects. The Jack of Spades, so this is an untrustworthy youth. It's someone who is depressed or lonely, or in trouble in some way. It's also someone who's ill-disposed towards you, a youth who doesn't like you. It's a spirit, a dead spirit. It can also be a witch's familiar, and it relates to a message of bad news. I really hate getting this card. I don't know why, just when it comes up I'm always like, ugh, this is bad news. No one wants that. Okay, so those are the jacks or knaves, depends which you'd rather call them. So then we have the queens. So the queens relate to women and they relate to truth. Okay. So the Queen of Diamonds, oh, that's me, haha. The Queen of Diamonds, oh, by the way, the queens and the kings are generally people over 30, okay? Guess my age. So anyway, the Queen of Diamonds, so she is a woman who is intelligent, she likes travel, she likes new experiences, she is sociable, so she might be a socialite, she has money, okay, that's not me, but yeah. And she might be like a female professor or a female teacher. In terms of truth, this is truth about a financial matter. So the Queen of Hearts, this is a woman who has your best interests at heart, a woman who loves you. So it could be a wife, it could be a mother, it could be a sister, an aunt, a grandma, anything like that. Someone who is artistic, emotional, intuitive, loving, kind. It's just a really kind, nice woman. In terms of truth, this is truth in general or truth of an emotional matter. So the Queen of Clubs. So the Queen of Clubs is a very business-oriented woman. She is career-minded. This could be a boss or a superior at work. She's practical, she is sporty, she's lively, outgoing. So in terms of truth, this relates to the truth of a business matter, or it can also mean that you need to work to uncover the truth. And the Queen of Spades. So this is a woman who is against you, it's an enemy, a woman who doesn't like you, who's got it in for you. It can also be a dead woman, a female witch, a widow, or a divorcee. and it also relates to an unpleasant truth or a lie. So finally we come to the kings, and the kings represent men and they represent power. Yeah, men are power apparently. So the King of Diamonds, so this is a man, so they're very similar to the personality characteristics of the queens. So this is a man who is very intelligent, he's got wealth, he likes travel, he likes new experiences, he's well learned. He could be a male professor or a male teacher. In terms of power, this is financial power or the power to pay for things. So the King of Hearts, this is a man who has your best interests at heart. A kind man, a loving man, is a husband, a father, a son, a brother, a male friend. It's a man who is very emotional, very artistic, a family man, a man who seeks security within relationships. In terms of power, it's the power to arouse feeling or the power of emotion. The King of Clubs. This is a very practical man, a man who's very career-minded, business-oriented, a businessman. This could be a male boss or a male superior at work. In terms of power, this relates to the power to progress, the power to achieve goals, and the power to get things done. And finally, last but not least, we have the King of Spades. So this is a male enemy, a man who hates you, he's against you, he's ill-disposed towards you. It can also be a widower or a divorcee. It could be a dead man. It can be a male witch or the devil. It can be a man in authority, power over you, like a judge or a policeman, an executioner. And in terms of power, it's the power to hurt others, the power to harm, the power of evil. And finally, let's not forget the jokers. So I always keep the joker in my pack when I'm reading. I know some people like to take them out, but I always keep them in. I've got this funky one, look, the World Joker. I love him, he's great. Isn't he fab? So the Joker is the wild card. When the Joker turns up in a reading, that means expect the unexpected. It's chaos, it's unpredictability, it's basically something that you cannot predict. Anything could happen. It's not necessarily going to be negative, but just it means expect the unexpected. So those are the meanings of the numbers for the cards. I'm going to reshuffle this pack because they're all in order now, so I need to put these massively out of order, and then I'm going to do just a few example 3-card spreads so you can see how everything works together, the colors, the suits and the numbers. So I've shuffled the pack nice and thoroughly, and I'm just going to show you a couple of quick 3-card spreads so you can get an idea of how it all fits together, the colours, the suits and the numbers. Not too many though, because I feel like this video has been way long enough already. A quick note on the 3-card spreads. They don't necessarily mean past, present and future. It's more like a single card is a word and 3 cards forms a sentence. I like to work with sequences of 3s, so in a lot of my layouts I would do like 9, so 3 lots of 3s. That way you get several different combinations and you can get a really clear picture, because 3 cards is really just a single sentence. It doesn't go into a lot of detail, but when you're learning it's really good, and it's also really good for answering just a really quick simple question around a scenario. So let's see what we get. So we have got the 7 of spades, 5 and the 5. So, okay, what have we got here? So first of all, the colours are things steadily improving. So you've got this one is black and then the 2 reds coming in. In terms of the suit meaning, this is a financial problem, which is overcome very easily because we have a heart at the end. And the problem is at the beginning, it's not in the middle. So things are steadily improving, financial problem, overcome easily. Now, the individual cards, we know the 7 is double trouble. It also means something hidden, an investigation, examination. We've got the 5 of diamonds, which is shopping, eating out, spending money on things like jewelry and clothes. And then we've got the 5 of hearts, which is your friends, entertainment, health, and sex. So if we put all these 3 together, it's actually quite a clear reading, this one. This person has been having some financial difficulties. And I would suggest that the reason for that is because they just don't realize how much they're wasting on unnecessary material things. They're spending a lot of money on eating out, on shopping, on things that they don't really need. And the fact that this one also represents things hidden shows that this person is probably not really aware of their spending. They've not really looked at it. They've not really looked at their outgoings. It's like, oh my God, like I do spend £5 on a coffee every day. I don't really need that. Anyway, the 5 of hearts at the end indicates that this person's friends will help them to see, like sit them down and be like, you know why you're having these money problems? Because you're just spending money on useless junk that you don't need. You're wasting your money. You know, do you really need to be eating out 3 times a week? I know people that are like this, you know, and you just want to shake them. But in this case, because things are going to improve, this person is obviously going to listen to their friends. And it might be also that their friends help them out a bit, lend them money, or just help them to budget and cut out the unnecessary expenses. I think this person's going to realize that actually you don't need to spend a lot of money to have friendships and to entertain yourself. So that's what I get for this spread. So that's a nice easy spread. Okay, what have we got next? So, ooh, the wish card. We got 8 of spades. So this one, the colours are pretty much the opposite of the last one. So you've got a fair beginning, which is steadily getting worse in the colours. This indicates it's an emotional problem that is going to get a lot worse, okay? Now with the individual cards, we start off with the wish card, your wish coming true, things are changing for the better, a change of heart. Then we have this one, this is negative thinking, gossip, conflict, oppression, conflict within groups. And then of course we have the 3 of spades. This is problems adding up, it's interference from a third party, and it's loss. So if I was going to put this all together, this is another one that's actually quite clear. What this shows is that the person, the subject of this reading, they have got what they wished, okay? So they're pretty happy right now, but their own negative thinking and that of others around them is going to ruin their wish. A spade after the wish card, a lot of the time that means be careful what you wish for, okay? So in this case, this is a person who they've got what they wanted, but you know, they always have a negative attitude, and they're a bit like, well, where's the catch? One of those people, you know, they're never satisfied, and their own fears and doubts are really undermining their happiness here. And also they're surrounded by people who are, I would say these people are jealous. It might be co-workers, it might be friends or family, but these people are jealous. They've seen this person's happiness. These are the kind of people who they resent your success and your happiness because they want you to be as miserable as they are. They're negative. They're gossiping. They're talking about you behind your back, and they're probably helping you to doubt your happiness. They're probably feeding into that because they know your insecurities, okay? And so these 2 things combined, the people around you and your own negative thinking, are going to build up until you lose what you wished for, because this is the loss card, okay? So this is it's not a great reading, I'll be honest. Yeah, that's not great. Next one. What have we got? Okay. Ooh, okay. Nice. And a jack. So this is a much better reading. This is a really nice reading, actually. So we've got 3 red cards, so everything's good. We've got the diamonds surrounded by the 2 hearts. So this indicates someone who's very generous. It's generosity and it's giving from a loving place, okay? The 3 of hearts, this can be a child, it's growing emotions, it's beautifying. In this case, I wouldn't say it's a rival or a love triangle because there's no negativity here. So it's the positive side of the 3 of hearts. Then we have the Jack of diamonds. So this is either a youth who is intelligent, He is wealthy. He's possibly a student. He or she, should I say. They are possibly a student. Or it can be a message around money. And then the Two of Hearts is a couple. It's love, it's marriage, it's sex, it's union. So this one, I would read this one or two ways, depending on the age and the circumstances of the person you're reading for, okay? So if I was reading this for a younger single person, I would say that this represents growing emotions between that person and this person represented here, this other young person, okay? This young person is intelligent and has a little bit of money. And these emotions are going to build and they're going to lead to a couple. So you're going to get together basically with this person. And this person will be a very generous lover. They may use their money to buy your affections, or that may just be their way of showing their love. And that's the way that they're going to, you know, try and woo you over. But this is just, it's all happiness. This is a great, great reading for that person. The other scenario, I would read this for maybe a slightly older person who's already in a relationship. So the 3 can relate to children, and the Jack is also a young person. So these together, these relate to someone who loves children or who wants children, okay? So if I was reading for someone who was already in a relationship, I would say that this represents a couple that want children, but they haven't had them yet for some reason. And I would reckon that because of this diamond in the middle, and then that can mean a message concerning money, I would say the reason they've put off having children is because they're worried they can't afford it, okay? However, what this spread now tells me is that if this is a message concerning money, now is the time to go for that, okay? Because this is the sex card, obviously. So this couple, they want children. They've been putting it off for whatever reason, possibly financial. But the good news is, if that is the reason, they will get some message concerning that. They'll get the go-ahead. The generosity angle might be that somebody helps them out financially. It may be, you know, they haven't been able to afford a big enough place to have children, and maybe their family will help them out in that way on the money side of things with a deposit or something like that. This is all speculation. You really need to get more cards around this. But this is a great reading, again, for a couple that wants children. This indicates now is the time. Go for it. Ooh, another nice... Ha ha. Wow, okay, so... Well, this is a really interesting reading. I'm glad a Joker came up, actually, because Jokers can be, like, a little bit tricky to read because they disrupt everything else. So this is actually, wow, this is a fascinating reading. I've never gotten this before because you have 2 10s, which are like the pinnacle, and then you have this crazy unexpected chaos in the middle. So when it comes to Jokers, it's a bit tricky because Jokers don't have a colour, so you don't know if they're going to be good or bad. You have to look at the surrounding cards. So in this case, I would read this as 3 red cards because you have not only are these red cards, they're the best red cards in their suit, okay? So I would say this is all good, and it's something unexpected, surrounded by money and emotions. So this is happiness. The 10 of Hearts is happiness. It's emotional security. It's a happy marriage. It's a happy family life. It's just happiness in general. And it can also be a journey by water or boat journey. Then you've got the wild card, the Joker, unexpected, chaos, unpredictability. And then, of course, you've got the 10 of Diamonds, which is financial independence, it's success, it's wealth. So, putting it all together, I would say that in this person's life is going to suddenly come unexpected happiness and wealth and success, okay? Things are going to come together in a completely unpredictable way to bring them happiness and success. This is a really good reading. Although the Joker is chaotic, sometimes this chaos can be like, you're caught in the whirlwind. It's a roller coaster, you know. So it's like, it's crazy, but it's good crazy, okay? Something falls into place in a completely unexpected ways. It's impossible to predict what that could be because the Joker tells you, whatever you speculate, the cards are saying, we're not going to tell you, okay? You just got to wait and see with this one. This is a big reading for somebody, you know. This is like this is like out of the blue. This happiness and wealth comes completely out of the blue. Because these 2 are journey cards, and this is a journey by water, this is a journey by fire. So there could be like a baptism of fire, like because of this craziness in the middle. baptism of fire. So I would connect, because these two are a journey and they're connected by this unpredictability, and this is a boat journey, I would say that it's possibly, these crazy things are going to involve a boat journey. Due to the fact that you've got the wealth and the happiness, this is going to be like a pleasure journey. So it could be a pleasure cruise, a trip on a yacht, either yours or a friend's, you know, if you're lucky enough to have your own yacht. And on this journey, crazy things are going to happen. Crazy things are going to surround this journey. Or on the other hand, it could be that this crazy joker leads to this journey. So maybe somebody getting a big break working on a cruise liner or something, or somebody getting a big windfall and they decide to buy a yacht, you know. So there's a lot of ways to look at this, but all I can say with this one is hold on to your horses. It's going to be a wild ride, but the outcome is going to be amazing. Okay, next one. What have we got? Ooh, nice. Okay. Ah, right. This is an interesting one. There's no spades, so yeah, it's not too bad. So, in terms of the colours, we have a light at the end of the tunnel, okay? In terms of the suits, we have working to success, the heart at the end, okay? This is another spread that I would read in one of two ways. It's kind of clear. It depends again on the person you're reading for, their age, their personal circumstances. So the first way I would read this, so you've got the ace, which is a new goal, a new task, a new opportunity, a new job. Then you've got this youth who's practical, they're hardworking, they're sporty, or it's a message about work or about a goal. And then finally, you've got the Queen of Hearts. This is someone who loves and cares for you, someone who's emotional and artistic, and who tells the truth, okay? Or it could be the truth in general. So what I would say the first reading is that this is a young person who is getting a new job opportunity through somebody that cares about them. So possibly like their mum or an aunt or a family friend has found them a job. And the fact that it's a light at the end of the tunnel, I would say this shows that this person has been struggling to get work. So it might be their first job, for example, you know, or they've just left uni or college, and there's like a lot of competition for jobs when you're that age. So we've all been there. So it might be that they hear about the job through this person, or it might be that they end up working with this person. My first job was working with my mum, for example. She got me that job. So, you know, it happens. The other way I would read this is taking out the youth. So if this is a reading for an older person who doesn't have any children or anything like this, I would say that it's a message about a job application or a project that they've been waiting on for a long time, and they're going to hear about it, and it's going to be realized through this person that loves and cares for them, their friend, their mum, their aunt, etc., etc. So this could be like a new opportunity. They've waiting on a message. Maybe they've put in a job application or a proposal for something, and they're waiting on it. And this person is going to deliver that message. Okay, so they're the important person here. There's a third way I would read this, which is not as likely as the other two, but you'll know from the person that you're reading for. And this could be that it's a new job involving youths and caring, because the heart is a caring lady. So this could possibly be that you're getting a new job, you know, working with youths in like maybe a social club setting, might be for troubled youths, or it might just be, you know, like a kids club like the Boy Scouts or whatever. So that's the other way of reading this, is that it's something that involves caring for youths and it's a new opportunity. So working with youths. Okay, next one. I think I'll probably make this the last one because we've gone on long enough. You're getting the idea now. Oh, joy. My favourite card, the Jack of Spades knot. Oh, lovely. Oh, this is just wonderful. So this is straight off the bat, we've got 3 spades. So that's just bad. The colours are all black. It's just all bad. This is just a bad reading. So we've got our lovely Jack of Spades, my least favourite card. This is bad news. It's a young person who is depressed or lonely or in trouble in some way. It's an enemy or a spirit. We've got the 4 of Spades. This is instability, uneven temper, injustice, lawsuits, exhaustion, problems that you cannot get away from. And then finally, we've got the King of Spades. This is another enemy. It's an older man over 30 who's depressed or lonely. It's a widower. It's a divorcee. It's an authority figure like the police or a magistrate. And it's the power to harm or to teach others a lesson. So again, there's a couple of ways I would read this, depending on the person's situation that you're reading for. The first way is quite obvious. We have a youth who is in trouble. They're possibly acting out because of this uneven temper. So it's that, hormonal stage. I would say they're being very antisocial. The enemies here are these two people. So when you come to the 4, the instability, this is the area of the instability is always shown by the surrounding cards. So in this case, it's these two opposing forces that are causing this imbalance, okay? So in the first instance, I would say this is a young person in trouble with the law. So, because this can be a policeman or a judge. I would say that a young person has been involved in antisocial behavior. Now, because this is also a message of bad news, and this can represent lawsuits and summons, I would say this youth is going to get arrested, or they're going to get summoned to court or fined for their antisocial behavior. And this is a judge or policeman, so this is the person who is judging them. So they're going to end up with a summons to court, that sort of thing, and it's going to have a bad outcome for them. But because this also means injustice, I would suggest that the fine or sentence they receive is very harsh compared to what they've actually done. It's probably that this person wants to make an example of them because they've taken it on as a personal vendetta, hence the enemy side. Okay, so they're making an example of this young person. Now, the other thing it could be, if there's no yous involved in the person you're reading for's life or your life, is that it's you that is in trouble, because this can be like a speeding ticket, it can be like a lawsuit. So I would say this is a message about maybe you're going to have a speeding fine, or you're going to have some kind of lawsuit against you, and again it's going to go badly for you. You're going to feel like it's a complete injustice. It could be like, because this is sometimes personal, this can be like the state authority, like the powers that be, power to teach a lesson, or it can be a person, like an individual. So it might be someone who's got it in for you and has brought some kind of case against you, like, a neighbour or a co-worker, that sort of thing. But it's not justified. They're doing it out of spite, out of malice, okay? Now, there's a third way I would read this, and that this is two individuals that hate each other, okay? And they're locked in this constant battle of instability. Now, because this means something you can't get away from, that would suggest that these two people are unable to get away from each other. And due to the age gap, my instinct would tell me this is a father and son that are completely at loggerheads with each other, and it's causing instability and drama and upset within the home. That's the third way I would read this. They're both miserable people and they're taking it out on each other, butting heads completely, and there's not really a way out of this because they can't physically get away from each other. Okay, this is like a teen and his dad, that sort of thing. Okay. So that's the other way I would read that one. That's pretty horrible reading. Okay, I think I will probably stop there. Oh, do you know what? I honestly, I did not set this up for the Queen of Diamonds to come out, but that is my card. And you know what? The cards are telling me that is the time to stop. This video has been long enough. So that was an example of some quick 3-card spreads. I hope you found that very useful. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it will be useful to you in your card readings. For the next video in the series, I'm going to just do some sample spreads which I use, and also talk about timing within readings. So I hope you'll join me for that. It shouldn't take as long as the last one did. I'll get it to you as soon as I possibly can. But yeah, I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found it useful, and it will recommend it to other people as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.